Hey all, here are OS Reviews. Today we're taking a quick look at the HAKII Cheer. This is a portable Bluetooth speaker that has a 30-watt driver, a passive radiator, and is also IPX7, so it will be splash-proof and rain-proof. It's kind of designed for outdoor usage and sports, and also claims to offer 2 built-in EQs that can change the sound signature just by pressing on the speaker, which is kind of interesting. There's a 360 design along with 4 drivers hidden underneath the mesh, so you get that stereo separation effect, NFC for tap to easy pair, as well as a 14-hour battery life and a TWS mode. So if you have a second speaker, you can link them together and they will provide even more separation. The price here is still a little bit expensive, so it sells for around $100 a pop, which for a compact speaker like this is going to be competitive with the larger brands out there versus some of the more generic models which have a similar type of look that you can probably also find on Amazon or eBay, for example. 2 variants available. We have the red and black version, which is really just the accent or the loop on the top that's red. Everything in terms of the body and the mesh on both models look very similar. So it is again presented quite well. We can flip open this door, which is padded with foam, to have access to the speaker on top. Some of the extra accessories, including USB Type-C. There's also a auxiliary 3.5mm cable if you want to connect it as a wired speaker, along with also a caliber hook. So you can pop it onto the top and put it onto a keychain or backpack. So taking a closer look at the design of the speaker, overall it's about the same size of a water bottle, I'd say, and it does have this mesh fabric covering that is a little bit reminiscent of, say, the Google Home series. Overall it looks rather clean, and if you're pointing at the light, you can kind of make out some of the grills here for where the sound comes out of, and it has 2 orientations. You can either put it up top like a can, or you can also decide to set it downwards like this. And in either mode, it's not going to wiggle or move around. And on the very top, we do have all the controls, including a play and pause key, a volume rocker, as well as a EQ selection key. And the middle here is the power button that you can tap and hold for a few seconds to turn it on. And you will also see some LED lights here. There is, by the way, also an area here labeled NFC. So this is the region that's sensitive if you're tapping your phone to very quickly pair if your phone has NFC support. Finally, on the base, there is also a door that we can pull on to have access to the Type-C port for charging. There's the auxiliary port if you don't want to use Bluetooth, and technically it's using Bluetooth 5.0, as well as there is a USB full-size Type-A port. So what this is for is basically acting as a power bank, although it only supplies at 5 volt 1 amp. So let's take a closer look at the performance and the sound quality next. Alright, so the overall takeaway is the sound quality is definitely quite impressive in terms of it just packs a much more volume as well as bass than I was expecting for a compact speaker of its size. In fact, it's kind of hard to show up on here because we can't see the driver completely underneath the mesh, but it definitely shakes and thumps every time the bass drops or there is a drum beat. And in fact, it almost rumbles and vibrates the entire table here, so quite powerful. And in fact, we could definitely hear the sound even by turning the speaker 360 degrees, really loud, even though we were only at around 30% volume there in that test. Even if you're outdoors for partying, just this one speaker I think could be sufficient at the highest volume. So that 30 watts really is no joke. Even though it might look like a traditional small mini speaker, it really packs just bigger sound, bigger volume than the majority of other ones that you'll find in this similar size. It doesn't sound too shrill or distorted even at higher volume levels. It still sounds pleasant with enough details in the mids as well as some details in the trebles as well if you're listening to acoustic tracks and singers' vocals. So everything just sounds very dynamic, very lively, and almost like you're in that live environment. Right, so the takeaway there is the two EQ modes are kind of subtle. It's not very obvious, but there is a slight difference. The first one slightly emphasizes the trebles and vocals a little bit more, while the second one is going to be a bit more slightly more muted there, but punching up the bass. So depending on what you are listening to, you can play around with those, but both will be outputting at a similar volume level. Now there are a few things I will point out, one of them being that this does not have a built-in microphone, so you can't really use it as a conference speaker, which is maybe something that they could add considering the kind of higher price that they're going for. And secondary is going to be, because this is kind of a waterproof model and they're going for this clean mesh design, it doesn't have quite as many LEDs as on some of the other speakers on the market. So if you want something that's kind of a dazzling light show, it might not really be the case with this model. So that's more or less it as far as our hands-on look at the HAKII Cheer, just a simple Bluetooth speaker, but one that's built very well in terms of its rugged design, and definitely surprising me in terms of how loud it gets. But you can check out more details if you're interested in the links down below. For now, that's been our video. Thanks for watching here at OS Reviews.